When we think about what makes for truly great flight instruction, it's so easy to get caught up in the mechanics of the aircraft. But what if I told you the real secret sauce has less to do with the plane and everything to do with understanding the psychology of learning? Today we're diving into exactly that, based on insights from Micky Cook's fantastic Flight Instructor Oral Exam ACS review. And hey, this resource is available right now on Amazon, and it's coming soon to Audible, narrated by Tom Brooks.
So let's start with the big question, the one that's really at the heart of all this. What's the difference between a pilot who's just good and one who's truly great? Well, the answer isn't found in the airframe or the engine. It's found in a deep, deep understanding of the human element, the person sitting right there at the controls.
So before an instructor can even think about teaching a maneuver, they have to get a handle on what's going on inside the student's mind. You have to understand their inner cockpit, what drives them, what they need, and maybe most importantly, how they react under pressure. Look, every single student pilot walks through that door trying to fulfill some kind of fundamental need. For some, it might be about safety, knowing they have the skills to handle an emergency. For others, it's that incredible feeling of accomplishment. A great instructor, they figure out what that core driver is, and they use it to build a learning environment that's not just supportive, but deeply motivating. And let's talk about stress, because it's a huge part of flying. Now, a little bit of normal stress, that can actually be a good thing. Think about that heightened awareness you feel on your first solo. It sharpens your focus. But abnormal stress, that is a serious red flag. That's the kind of stress that clouds judgment and tanks performance. And a good instructor has to be able to spot it and manage it. Now, when a student gets really overwhelmed, the mind has this funny way of putting up, shields. We call them defense mechanisms. They're unconscious ways of protecting against anxiety. For instance, a student might blame a gust of wind for a bumpy landing instead of looking at their own technique. An instructor who sees this isn't just a teacher anymore. They become this vital support system, helping the student work through those mental blocks.
Okay, so understanding the student's mind, that's the foundation. But how do you actually build a house? Well, learning isn't just random. It has an architecture, a carefully designed process with some very clear rules.
And these are the core principles that govern how we learn effectively. The student has to be ready to learn, right? The learning experience needs to have a positive effect, so they want to do it again. The skill needs constant exercise or practice to get strong. What you teach first, primacy, tends to stick the longest. Learning is way stronger when it has intensity, like a real-world experience. And finally, things learned most recently are the easiest to remember.
This is the journey every pilot takes. You start in the cognitive stage, where you're literally thinking through every single step, like following a recipe. Then, with practice, you move into the associative stage, where you start linking those steps together into a smooth process. And the ultimate goal? The automatic stage, where the skill is so natural it's like breathing, and that frees up your brain to focus on the big picture.
But let's be honest, the path to becoming a great pilot is never a straight line. You're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna forget things, and that's not failure. It's just a totally normal part of the learning curve. The trick is to understand why it happens.
And not all errors are created equal. There's a huge difference between a slip and a mistake. A slip is when you know the right thing to do, but you just accidentally do it wrong, like skipping an item on a checklist. A mistake, on the other hand, is an error in your thinking. You actually planned to do the wrong thing. Knowing which is so crucial for an instructor to give the right kind of feedback.
So what about forgetting stuff? Well, sometimes memories just fade away if you don't use them. Other times, new information can cause interference, like when learning a new plane's checklist messes with your memory of the old one. Then there's retrieval failure. You know the info's in there somewhere, you just can't find it. And in some rare cases, there's repression of traumatic events. This is exactly why constant, meaningful review is absolutely non-negotiable in aviation.
And all of this brings us to the real end game here. True mastery isn't about pulling off a perfect steep turn every time. It's about developing the critical thinking skills to handle anything the sky throws at you. It's about thinking like a pilot.
This is where it all clicks into place. We're talking about developing higher-order thinking skills, or HOTS. This is all about moving beyond just memorizing facts. It's the ability to analyze a situation as it's changing, connect all the different pieces of information, and make solid, real-time decisions. This is the absolute core of good aeronautical decision-making.
And how do you teach that? With powerful, structured tools like the PAVE checklist. Before every single flight, a pilot should be methodically thinking about the risks. The pilot, am I fit to fly today? The aircraft, is it airworthy? The environment, what's the weather up to, and external pressures, am I rushing? It's a simple but brilliant framework for managing risk. And probably the single best way to build those higher-order skills is with scenario-based training, or SBT. Instead of just practicing maneuvers over and over, SBT throws students into realistic situations where they have to apply what they know, manage risks, and make critical decisions under pressure. It's what closes the gap between knowing something and actually doing it. So we end up right back where we started, with a question. After everything we've talked about, the answer seems pretty clear, doesn't it? While all those gauges and screens on the panel are vital, the most critical, the most complex, and the most powerful instrument in any cockpit is, without a doubt, the human mind. If this stuff really interests you and you want to go way deeper, I can't recommend Micky Cook's Flight Instructor Oral Exam ACS review enough. It really is an invaluable resource. You can grab it now on Amazon and keep an eye out for it on Audible, narrated by Tom Brooks. Thanks for joining me.